Hello and welcome to another episode of the Average Joe Football Show. I'm your host, Joe Fair. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to another episode of Pierre Gasly's favorite football podcast. That's
Pierre
right.
Gasly.
I'm joined once again, obviously, by my illustrious producer, Joe Thiessen. How's it going, Joe?
Fast.
Speedy.
Speedy, sexy,
And slim.
and yep.
Yeah.
Well, not me, but
Yeah, me neither.
yeah, Pierre
Yeah.
Gasly. Who's that?
Pierre Gasly, you know who it is. Yeah, so we're both kind of F1 boys now.
Yeah.
Not gonna lie about it. We both been getting on the. We both recently, you more recent than me,
Yeah.
started watching the F1 Drive to Survive on Netflix, at the recommendation of our good buddy Joel. Wow.
No, I found that show all by myself.
You did not.
Nobody told me about
I
it.
told you about it many
I
times.
just know it would really piss Joel off if he
Or
heard
you
me
could just
say
say
that.
you'd watch it because I told you to.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Actually, thanks for introducing me to that
Yeah,
show.
no problem.
Joe Fair.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks, Joel.
Thanks,
Joe.
It was me, Joe Fair, not
yeah.
Joel, who introduced you to the show, and
Yeah.
you're welcome for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're big into F1 now. I just almost want to turn this into an F1 pod.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
We should. It would be easier, I think.
You think so?
Yeah.
Why?
Are there weekly races?
Yeah,
Or is it-
I believe so. I don't actually know.
Everything
This shows
is-
how much we know about F1.
Yeah, I so little. But
we only know about F1 what's in the documentary. We haven't actually watched any F1 races.
I think they did a fantastic job with that show. As far as like, I watched the Pierre Gasly race where he wins at Monza,
Oh yeah.
and he gets first place, and he's a midfield car,
Yeah. It's
And-
a big deal.
and that's a big deal. And so basically, where was I going with that?
You were getting in a. Yeah, I
Oh,
think
how
you're-
good the show was!
Yeah.
I wasn't. That's not a live race. That happened a long time ago. I was
Yeah.
so invested
Oh yeah.
in that race.
Mhm.
Like everything that was going on, and oh man, like when he passed, I think it was Perez on this one corner. They were like wheel to wheel,
Oh yeah.
in a small straight, and he like overtook. Oh my
And
god.
he says like after the race, he's like, I was just going for it.
Yeah,
Like,
he says that was my favorite part. He says if he would have gotten closer to me, we both would have been in the wall. But I just went for it. He said
that was so sick, and then he's screaming, and it's just like,
Yeah.
oh, that was so awesome.
and that had me almost in tears at the end of that. Like when he won. Oh, it was so
yeah.
cool.
I feel like the documentary is almost more fun to watch. Like you and I think we're gonna get into F1 a little bit. This next season starting
March 20th
March
or
20th
22nd, something like that.
is when the new races start. So we might get into it, watch a few races. But I feel like it is almost more fun to watch the documentary now.
Because you see the behind the scenes and
Yeah.
the drama and stuff like
And you
that.
also don't, but we also don't know the results.
Yeah.
So in that Pierre Gasly race, if we would have already watched that season,
yeah.
we would know, oh, Pierre Gasly's going to win. But it would still be exciting and awesome. But now
Because-
it's like we have literally no clue. Is he going to win this thing? you
Yeah,
know?
exactly.
So-
So, but I guess when we start watching it in the 2022 season of F1, we can when we watch the Drive to Survive later on, we'll be like, oh, I remember that race, and oh man,
Yeah.
and they'll dramatize it, and
Yeah, that's the
it'll
thing.
be pretty cool.
No, it'll still be great. And yeah, so we're in the process of doing that, learning all about F1. By the way, yes, the Super Bowl happened. Oh my goodness, what a game that was!
Oh wow, cool. Anyways, so
we're gonna talk about the Super Bowl later on in the show. Thank you guys for tuning into another episode. Mike's gonna come back on the pod. We're gonna break down a fantastic Super Bowl between the Los Angeles Rams and the Cincinnati Bengals. So look forward to that. We're just talking all Super Bowl today. Nothing else really. Just Super Bowl. The final episode of the 2021-2022 NFL season.
2022. Okay, yeah. Go ahead.
So exciting times. We're going to take a little break after this episode. So stay tuned for word about that. But yeah, okay, we're in the process of picking a team as well for
F1.
F1.
I think we've pretty much made up our mind.
I think we've made up our mind.
But I also have not seen a whole lot about it on Drive to Survive. So maybe I don't know, like they haven't covered their team very much from the episodes that I've seen. I guess I skipped.
You did skip a lot.
Because I wanted to start at season 3 just so I could kind of catch up with how last season went.
I would highly recommend you go back and watch the rest of this show.
Yeah.
It's a really good show. Like I know that it's kind of far back. You basically get a timeline of where we're at now. You know what I'm saying? I don't even know very much about the current state of affairs in the F1, so I still have to ask Joel sometimes who's on which team and stuff, but it's kind of cool to see, like, there is so much driver movement in F1. Like, Daniel Ricciardo's on a new team every freaking year almost.
Yeah.
But he's on McLaren. McLaren is a team that we kind of picked.
Yeah.
Me, you, and Joel, we all kind of are deciding on a team, and we figured it'd be fun to pick a team that we could all root for the same.
Yeah.
So for me, it was kind of down to McLaren and, like, Ferrari.
Yeah.
Kind of want to get in on Ferrari because they're Ferrari, you know?
They're Ferrari, yeah.
And they're not up there right now.
Yeah.
They kind of had a couple down years.
Yeah. I was thinking McLaren or Mercedes, actually.
Mercedes.
No,
we were talking about
I
this.
wasn't actually.
Is it the lamest thing ever to get into F1 and say, I'm a Mercedes or Red Bull fan?
Well, considering the fact that the last 10 years, well, in the season that I was watching now, I don't know how this last one went, but the last 10 years it's been Red Bull and Mercedes.
Yeah, they've dominated like the past 10, 15 years. It's been just Red Bull and Mercedes. So
yeah.
it feels very dirty. Like, I like Red Bull. I like the drink. Honestly, I do.
Drink.
I like Max
Mercedes
Verstappen.
cars look so slick. I love them.
Mercedes cars
They
are the
look so good.
coolest things.
I love the sleek black look.
Oh,
and the,
man.
Ugh.
And the silver that they had before that, too, they just look cooler than everybody else's cars.
Yeah.
Like, it just looks like everybody else is, we got all our fun colors. This is like, oh, look at us. We have a pink one
And
over
their cars
here
are like scary.
and an orange.
Like,
Yeah, and then all of a sudden, it's like out of the distance, you just hear a Mercedes car and they pull up and it's like, okay, we got to get out of the way, Mercedes.
like, yeah, move. He's
Yeah.
coming through.
Mercedes is here and they're cool. It just seems like
Yeah.
the whole Mercedes team is just cool.
Yeah.
Other than the second driver, nobody cares about who the second driver is. But sorry, Valtteri Bottas and now George
He's
Russell.
cool.
Yeah, Valtteri Bottas is fine.
He was cool. I liked him.
Yeah, he was like.
I liked his mustache.
But I'm just seeing like coolness factor. Like Lewis Hamilton seems like the coolest dude. Like he just seems
Yeah.
cool.
I just don't like him very much.
Yeah, that figures.
Why?
I don't know. Just seems like it.
Like every episode that I've seen, he did something that was kind of illegal and then he got penalized
That's
for
true.
it. And it's like he's just
that.
like always trying to bend the rules or like almost cheat. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
not really cheat, but
He either wins or he gets a 10-second penalty for
Yeah.
wiping somebody out.
wiping somebody out or boxing when you're not allowed to.
Yeah. Or he's
that's
like,
that's why Pierre Gasly won that. Well, he had a pretty good advantage already, but the fact that Lewis Hamilton lost, he had to stop. What is it called? Stop and go.
Yeah.
For a 10-second stop and go penalty or something
yeah,
like that.
Yeah, where he has to go into the pits and stop.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think he has. I don't know if you've seen he also had a penalty. He had a penalty in practice. He was just kind of being a little bit of a arrogant dude and doing whatever he wanted. And he's like, "Oh, I've never seen that rule." And it's like,
Well, he started on a no start zone.
Yeah.
Like in that one episode, like.
dude, it's not called a yes start zone.
Yeah.
It's called a no start zone.
Yeah.
But I mean, Toto Wolff just seems like a cool dude. He's like taller than everybody else. And he's
yeah,
like,
he's a tall,
he's
scary looking guy.
tall and handsome, and
Yeah.
it's just like,
And he's buff. Like,
yeah, he works. There's an episode where he's working out in it.
You're like, oh
But
wow.
like, he just seems like he is just like if you were like being super cocky and you were like talking big stuff and like a party, all of a sudden Toto Wolff comes in, it's like, okay,
yeah.
he's the
You talk now.
he's he's the alpha now in the room.
Yeah.
And all of us
Ugh.
just can kind of just pipe down a bit.
Yeah, that's some alpha male energy for sure coming
100%.
from Toto Wolff. But no, driver, I think team wise, I like McLaren. I like I think they have good odds. I think with Lando Norris and with Daniel Ricciardo, I think they're good.
Yes.
Like I think they're pretty good. But driver wise, I think Pierre Gasly, he is just like, I love him. I'm always gonna root for him. Like
dude, I got you on Pierre Gasly.
Yeah,
I just wanted you to know that.
100%. But even if you wouldn't have told me about him, that episode would have drove me nuts because like they did such a good job with that episode. They really make you fall for that guy. Like,
yep. I think that's interesting too about interesting thing about F1 is that you kind of have to pick a team, but also you kind of have like drivers you root for. So like McLaren, and I'm definitely a big Pierre Gasly guy. I hope he succeeds. I want to see him on like I just feel like he could be a freaking good driver if all of a sudden like a spot opened up at like Mercedes or
Oh.
I mean Red Bull, except they'll never take him back
Yeah.
because they have too much
I would
pride.
like to see Pierre Gasly on McLaren. I would,
McLaren,
instead of Daniel Ricciardo.
that'd be pretty. I love Daniel Ricciardo.
I like him.
Too.
Well, I like him too, but I like him for Red Bull.
What other what if Pierre Gasly went to like stinking, I don't know,
Well-
Renault? They're called something else. Now.
Right.
They're called Alpine now.
Alpine?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, they're called Alpine this season. They're gonna be pink now, which
pink. I
yeah,
thought Racing Point was pink.
yeah. Racing Point's not pink anymore. Racing Point is now Alfa Romeo,
Yeah.
and so they're like a nice like cherry red.
Dang, that's kind of cool.
Yeah. This is real. If anybody doesn't care about F1, this is a
Real boring, but
rough intro for them.
Yeah.
Not a whole lot of humor, just
No.
F1 talk. It's
Just
been really
talking.
fun for me.
And the rules are changing a lot now too,
Yeah.
because it's getting popular. Like I think since the Drive to Survive series came out, like F1 has been popularized a lot more.
Oh
like,
yeah. And I
and-
respect what they're doing. They're like, oh, the sport is extremely popular now.
yeah.
And I don't know if this is why they're doing it, but they're just like, oh, let's make it as competitive as possible. So now
Mm.
the richest teams can't like. There's a salary cap now on how much you can spend
Yeah.
on your car, on
Yeah.
how much you can spend on drivers. So if that makes it even more competitive, because right now I think the biggest knock on F1 is that Mercedes and Red Bull just win.
Yeah,
every
because they're the
time.
richest.
Yeah, like if you watch the documentary, like it's basically, somebody finishes in 5th and they're like, "Whoa, yeah, let's go!" And
Yeah.
they're just celebrating because
Because-
first and second is almost impossible.
Yeah, it's always like Lewis Hamilton P1.
Yeah.
Uh,
P3, Bottas, P2.
Yeah, and then Verstappen P3.
Yeah.
something like that. Like
And those three you can basically just switch.
Yeah.
And now Valtteri Bottas is not there anymore, but spoiler, sorry about that.
that's fine.
But yeah, I don't know. You good?
I think I'm all good.
You got any other F1 talk you want to throw out, like another driver that you like?
I like Sainz.
Carl Sainz, yeah.
Sainz, whatever. Sainz.
No,
Sainz.
it's fine. It's
I-
not.
I
I
guess.
just say Sainz.
Sainz.
'Cause that's how
Sainz,
it's- yeah.
Sainz.
Big Carl. I like Carlos Sainz as
Yeah,
well.
he's cool. I don't know who he drives for right now, currently, but
He drives for Ferrari right
Ferrari now?
Yeah,
Nice.
he's a Ferrari guy.
cool.
Um,
Nice. I like that. Who's that guy? I finished the episode with where they had like we need to talk about Ferrari, like the episode called "We Need to Talk About Ferrari."
Oh yeah.
That one driver who they were letting go, and I forget what his name is.
Oh
now.
man, give me a second. What is his name? The Ferrari driver that they're letting go?
Yeah. And the next season he was driving for
He's-
shoot
He's driving. Is he not driving? He's driving for Racing Point.
for Racing Point next,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, for Alpine now.
Yeah.
No, Alpine is Renault. Alfa
Hold on.
Romeo.
I thought he was driving for McLaren in the next episode.
No,
Or-
because Daniel Ricciardo and Lando Norris on McLaren. He's driving. He's going to Racing Point. He's taking
Okay.
Checo Perez's spot.
Yes, that's true.
What is his name?
Yeah, I like his attitude, man. I like his like I don't give a crap attitude after he got fired or after he got
yeah.
let go from Ferrari.
Yeah, he was kind of just like, I'm gonna win races or
Yeah.
whatever. He's like, or he didn't, but he was gonna try.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was. What is that dude's name? How can I not think of his name? This is so bad. We're into F1. I can't remember
Yeah.
the guy's name. He won a championship with couple championships.
He was
with
an
Red
older
Bull-
guy.
Red Bull. Yeah, he's an older guy. Joel, if he's listening to this, he is just
Screaming his name already.
kicking himself right now. His name is very obviously, yeah, it's just not coming to me, man. I know you're looking it up right now, so I'm trying to just stall while you're looking it up. What's his name? How can I not think of his name? I'm gonna just kick myself.
Sebastian Vettel.
Sebastian Vettel.
Vettel.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Duh, because they call him Seb all the time.
Yeah. Seb.
Yeah, Sebastian Vettel's got a good mentality.
Yeah.
Well, bad if you're a teammate of him, but
yeah. Because his buddy or his partner was talking about his clothing line that he was releasing, and the guy's like, "No, he can't see." He's pointing to the Puma sign on his shirt. He's like,
yeah.
"He can't release anything because we got a sponsor. We got a deal with Puma. So he
Yeah.
can't release his clothing line."
That's great.
But yeah, I'm good with F1 talk. I'm done.
Very good. You're done. You want to get off?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Joe, we're taking a little bit of a break for
Yeah.
a bit, so it's been a real pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
Appreciate you this whole season.
Thanks, man.
I actually got you a gift.
You did?
No, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, man.
I
No,
didn't.
it's all good.
No, it's
Yeah.
just sorry. I feel like I maybe should have, but I feel like the gesture was kind of good enough. Like,
Yeah.
I appreciate you enough that I
Yeah.
thought of saying that I got you a gift.
Yeah.
So.
And I really appreciate that you would have even thought about doing that. so-
Yeah.
or thought about the gesture
And
at
we
least.
appreciate you guys listening
Yeah.
for this season. But enough of that. Why don't we get into a little Super Bowl talk? Well, ladies and gentlemen, we've officially made it through the entire 2021-2022 NFL season. Super Bowl 56 in the books. I'm joined, obviously, by my co-host and good friend, Mike. How's it going, Mike? What's your vibe? Super Bowl 56 is in the books. Incredible game. The season's over. What an incredible season. What's the vibe right now in the Fair household?
Joe, right now we're just chilling. And to all our viewers out there who can't see us, me and Joe are currently on the beach in Hawaii recording this episode. Have a few drinks in front of us. It's just good times. We spent the Super Bowl together. No, I'm just kidding. Here on our Skype call, we're on a beach setting. But no, Joe, the vibes are great.
I love that you said to all of our viewers that can't see us, which is all of them.
Yeah, exactly. I had that all planned out. No, well, here in the household, the vibes are. My wife's happy because she gets her husband back for 6 or 7 months on the weekends. But all in all, the season was epic. I think one of the best football seasons I've ever watched. I don't know if it has to do with getting invited to be on this show all season. That I think made it that much more enjoyable. But yeah, no, Joe, it's great. I am sad, of course, that the football season's over, but I'm excited for the future. I mean, so much good happened this year in the NFL, and I cannot wait to build off that.
Yeah, it's definitely exciting things in the future. This is the second season of this show. Super crazy to think that we've made it through 2 entire NFL seasons of doing this show. I think that's impressive. That's something to be proud of. I know you've only joined here the second season, but I think the show's only gotten better since you've joined. So it's been a wild ride. But speaking of wild rides, Super Bowl 56 was definitely wild. It was, in my opinion, a fantastic game. I won't say it was like the best Super Bowl ever, but a very entertaining game right down to the wire. And that's what we're going to talk about on this week's episode. Obviously, the Super Bowl just happened. We're going to talk about the Super Bowl. So yeah, we're going to recap all that. We're going to go through the whole game. We're going to talk about some takeaways, as far as the game, as far as what we do now after the game. But yeah, we're basically going to talk all things Super Bowl related. And why don't we just start by just going through the game, just a summary of everything that happened starting in the first quarter. We'll work our way quarter by quarter and just talk about the big moments, talk about what stuck out to us, and then we'll have some takeaways that we had from the game and takeaways maybe going forward for these two teams, for the NFL, for the Super Bowl, all that stuff. So why don't we start off first quarter of the game. The Rams' first drive, they get the ball first. They lose the toss, I believe. The Bengals decide to kick it to the Rams. Rams punt on their first drive. Cincinnati then goes down the field, turns it over on downs. They go for it on 4th down at midfield. So the Rams get the ball back. They have a 6-play, 50-yard drive that ends with an Odell Beckham Jr. 17-yard touchdown. Odell Beckham looked killer in this game to start things off, Mike.
Yeah, Joe, no. He was looking hot right out of the gate, and one of my buddies right away went, if he keeps this up, MVP, Super Bowl MVP. And I honestly believed him. I was like, I think at that point he had 2 catches, 50-something yards, and a touchdown already. And I was like, man, this is going to be one of the great performances by Odell. And I was really looking forward to see what he was gonna do throughout the rest of the game. But sadly, Joe, as everyone saw, Odell goes out with a torn ACL, I believe it's been reported as, and you never like to see that in these big games. A big player getting knocked to the ground. Or this was actually a non-contact injury. He went to catch a pass and he didn't secure the catch, and then you see him just pick up his leg. And at that moment, I knew what happened. I knew it was an ACL injury. I saw somewhere today that the ACL is just there for negative things. Like, you've never heard someone say anything good about an ACL, only bad things. So, that was a big blow to the Rams offense for sure, though.
Yeah, it's crazy to think how big of an impact Odell Beckham had over this game. Like, early on, he looked dominant. He had that 17-yard touchdown. Really nice catch by Odell. Like, he came out the gates, and you were talking about MVP, and I was thinking, I along with almost everybody was thinking the same thing. Like, oh, shoot, Odell could win MVP if he keeps playing like this. Obviously, it did not turn out that way. He got hurt later in the game, and that kind of sucked. But going back to the game, so after that Odell Beckham touchdown, they're up 7-0, the Rams now. Both teams end up going 3-and-out after that. And then to close off the first quarter, Cincinnati ends with a 6-play, 59-yard field goal drive where Ja'Marr Chase makes one of the best catches you'll ever see. Like, an incredible one-handed grab while diving. Like, and I was like, he hit the ground. I was like looking for the ball. I was like, where the heck did the ball go? Like there's no way he caught that. But just an incredible grab there by Ja'Marr Chase, and he was special in this game. He didn't his numbers won't show like that he was amazing or whatever, and it wasn't his best game, but I think he flashed like some moments in this game. I don't know what you think, Mike.
Absolutely, Joe. And when I watched that catch, of course, we had Odell on the other side of the field, but it's like big time players making big time plays, and it brought me back to the Odell catch. I know the catches were very different, but just amazing one-handed grabs. And if you watch it, like, you can see the ball, it hits his hand and kind of like wants to slide through his hand, and he just stops it. Like, well, it's like midway through his hand. And I was just like, the concentration to have a defender like grabbing, basically falling on your legs, and you reach out your arm, a little one-handed like grab in the Super Bowl, biggest game with 112 million people watching. I was like, man, that is absolutely insane. I lost my mind, honestly, when I saw that catch, Joe.
Yeah, that was an incredible catch. So the Bengals get on the board, and then to start the second quarter, the Rams, they look like, at this point, like, I'm like, okay, the Rams are here to play. Like, they're heating up. They're ready to go. They have a 6-play, 75-yard drive that's capped off with an 11-yard touchdown to Cooper Kupp. They end up missing the extra point because Johnny Hekker dropped the extra point. So that was like a weird disaster play. But at this point, like, I don't know, and I'll get your thoughts on it, but like, when it's 13-3 and the Rams score that second touchdown and Cooper Kupp looks good. Matthew Stafford, that, like, people don't really acknowledge it now after the game that he had, because he had a couple interceptions. Spoiler, we're going to talk about a couple interceptions that he had in this game. But people don't really talk about Matthew Stafford started off this game incredible. He was lights out to start this game, and it was this second touchdown to Cooper Kupp where I'm like, okay, the Rams are rolling. They're gonna come out hot. They're gonna come out ready to play. Matthew Stafford started this game off incredibly hot. I think at one point he was like 14 for 15 or 14 for 16. Like, he was dealing early in this game. And at this point, like 13-3, like, I'd like to know, Mike, what your vibe of the game is. The second quarter, 13-3, Cooper Kupp just scores a touchdown. They missed the extra point. Like, to me, I'm like, okay, this looks a lot like the Kansas City game in the AFC Championship for the Bengals.
Yeah, no, Joe, that's a good comparison. At this point, I was telling everyone I was around, like, Matthew Stafford showed up to play. The Rams showed up to play. The Rams didn't look like they could be stopped. And I honestly believe that at this point in the game that the Rams had control, and they were just gonna go down and score what seemed on like every drive. They were gonna score touchdowns, and when they scored the touchdown to Kupp, and they missed the extra point, I remember saying that was big, like just like in the Kansas City game when they went for it on like the 5-yard line, gave it to Tyreek, didn't get in. Kept it, I believe, like a two-score game. I said that's huge, just like in this game. I was like, that miss, it's a 10-point game. It's going to come down to it later on. But I figured that might swing the momentum a little bit. But yeah, no, I thought Matthew Stafford performed very well in the opening quarters of this game, Joe.
Yeah, that's very true what you say about like the extra point. Like I didn't think about it at the time the way you did that. Oh, maybe that's a huge thing, but with the Bengals, it seems like if you give them any sliver of hope, like we saw the Chiefs drive at the end of the first half, if you give them any like momentum. I know a lot of people don't think momentum's a real thing. I like to think momentum is absolutely a real thing, and the Bengals just seem to feed off momentum. So right after that extra point, Joe Mixon then caps off a 12 play 75-yard drive with a pass to T. Higgins, little trick play. Joe Mixon to T. Higgins for the touchdown to make it 13-3. This was a nifty little play. Joe Burrow with a little toss to Joe Mixon, and then nobody's covering T. Higgins because you're not expecting Joe Mixon to throw. I think he's only ever thrown one pass in his entire career, and it was in college. So it wasn't even in the NFL. So he throws a touchdown pass to make it 13-10. Later on, the Rams also tried to do a little trick play, I believe in like the third quarter, where Cooper Kupp threw one, and it was way off the mark. Looked kind of like the Patriots' little play from when they played the Eagles.
Absolutely.
So, after that, then Odell Beckham gets hurt on that next drive, and then both teams kind of get held for the rest of the third quarter. We go into the half with the Rams up 13-10 after Matthew Stafford throws an interception to Jesse Bates. Jesse Bates, who has been unbelievable throughout this whole playoff run. Jesse Bates, he's a free agent this upcoming year. The Bengals, I think, will make a priority re-signing him. He's been so good this whole season, really, but especially in the playoffs, he's made huge plays. But this was just basically an arm punt with around 2 minutes left, 3rd and 14. Matthew Stafford throws the ball deep down the field. Jesse Bates picks it off. And again, this is like you were talking about, like little momentum swings. The Bengals take advantage because to start the third quarter, what happens? A disastrous start for the Los Angeles Rams. The Bengals first play of the second half, 75-yard touchdown to T. Higgins. But Mike, there was a little bit of controversy on this play. Mike, why don't you tell the listeners? I'm sure they probably know about what was the deal with a 75-yard touchdown to T. Higgins.
T. Higgins goes out on like a go route, and it's 1-on-1 against Jalen Ramsey. And, Joe Burrow throws up I would say he underthrew the ball a bit. He was under some pressure, but he underthrew the ball. T. Higgins goes to make a grab, and he which is weird because just as the play happened, I thought Jalen Ramsey literally tripped and fell and just got absolutely burnt on the play. And I was like, wow, like, how are you making that play in the game? You can't be falling in the Super Bowl. And then as they show the replay in super slow-mo or whatever, you can see T. Higgins kind of grab the helmet or the face mask and yanked it a little bit, which threw Ramsey kind of to the ground to give himself an easy catch. At that point, I was like, well, they probably should have threw a flag because, that's pretty blatant or pretty obvious. But the fact that they didn't throw a flag, in my eyes, I was like, okay, we have a football game. The refs are literally just there to look pretty. They're not going to throw anything. And I was like, I'm in. I want to see the boys play some football.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I do think, like, in real time, it was really, really hard. Like, that was tough. And especially with where the ref was standing, it was kind of tough to even... it would have been tough to make that call. But obviously in super slow-mo, it was very, very obvious that T. Higgins grabbed Jalen Ramsey's face mask. And this is all going to come into play later on in the game because there's a lot of... I don't know if it's a lot of controversy, but there, people like to blow ref controversies a little out of proportion, but it definitely played a role later in this game. So right directly after that 75-yard touchdown, the Rams get the ball back, and on their first play after that drive, with Odell Beckham out now, Matthew Stafford throws a slant route to Ben Skwarnik. I think it's Ben Skwarnik. I don't even know if that's his first name.
I just called him number 18.
That dude had himself a rough game. It goes the pass goes, and it wasn't a great pass, but it went directly off his hands, right into the hands of, I believe, Chidobe Awuzie, who picks it off. So the Rams now just lost the lead. It's 20-13. No, sorry, it's 17-13.
Yeah.
Now Matthew Stafford throws an interception, and this is where I think the Bengals missed a huge opportunity, in my opinion, Mike. They had the opportunity. They were up 17-13. If they score a touchdown on this drive, they end up going 8 plays, 21 yards, and a field goal to make it 20-13. But I think if they score a touchdown on this drive, make it 24-13, this game, with the way the two offenses played and with the way that the Los Angeles Rams struggled really in the second half without Odell Beckham Jr., I think if they score a touchdown, the Bengals, this game might have been out of reach for the Los Angeles Rams. I don't know what you think about that.
No, Joe, I totally agree. I think that if the Bengals take advantage of that pick, because they were in decent field, they had a decent field. I think they were at like the 40 of the Rams ish around there. Don't quote me on that, but if they can go down and turn that into a touchdown, that game is almost out of reach, like you said, with the way the offense would have been playing at that time versus the Rams coming off of like basically 2 picks in the last few minutes. And then I feel like the Bengals would have really just controlled the time. So I feel like that was also a big momentum shift for the Rams, only giving up a field goal.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think if you were a Rams fan in that situation, you were getting quite nervous with how the game was unfolding.
Oh, for sure. You were sweating it out. I know at the moment it probably did not feel like you caught a break because it was like you couldn't have written a worse start for the Los Angeles Rams to start that second half. Like to have the 75-yard touchdown, the missed face mask call, and then you throw an interception on literally the very next play. So in really, minus the kickoff, 2 plays, the entire game flips on its head. Like you couldn't have written a worse start, but definitely for the Rams, not allowing a touchdown in that spot was definitely huge. But moving on, the third quarter, right after that field goal drive, the Rams then have a 10-play, 51-yard field goal drive, so it's 20-16. And then there's a couple 3-and-outs to end the third quarter, and then we get to the fourth quarter, and I feel like this is where things really heated up, Mike. I think this is where the game, obviously, the fourth quarter is where the game is won, but this is where the game heated up. The offenses started off a little slow in the fourth quarter, but at the end of the fourth quarter, with around, I think it was around 5 minutes, around then is when things really, really got heated up. The Los Angeles Rams down 16-20 at their own 30-yard line with about 5 minutes left, 4th and 1. And to me, this was one of the gutsiest calls I've seen in a while. 4th and 1, your own 30, 5 minutes left. To me, I thought it was a gutsy decision. Like with 5 minutes left, they still had all 3 timeouts, I believe. What were your thoughts on them going for it from their own 30-yard line on that 4th and 1, Mike?
Obviously, Joe, I was rooting for the Bengals in this game, so I was like, man, let's get a stop here. But I thought it was a big moment in the game. 5 minutes left. If you don't get it, the Bengals are right there in field goal range. So, I mean, it was huge. It was the game. Basically, at that point, it was the game. Because the score, I believe, was 20-16. And all it would have taken is a field goal to put it at, 23-16, which would have made it a touchdown game. So then the Rams would have had to go down if they only allow a field goal and score a touchdown to tie the game. So it was a massive moment. But I believe what they hit, Cooper Kupp hit a jet sweep.
Around. Yeah, the jet
end
sweep.
Around. Yeah, no, and they got, I believe, 7 yards or so. But I can guarantee you, Joe, Sean McVay was sitting on the sideline like, if I don't get this could be the game. And we've seen him in this situation
too. Like when Cooper Kupp got that handoff, it did not look like he was going to get the first down.
And I believe Al Michaels and Chris Collinsworth said it like, this is a type of play. If you get the first down, I mean, high fives all around. Let's keep the drive going. But if it fails, it is one of those head scratchers. Like, what are you doing?
100%. If Cooper Kupp does not get the first down on that jet sweep, that is all we're talking about on this podcast. We're talking about how do you call a jet sweep or an end around? How do you call that play on 4th and 1? Why don't you just hand it to Sony Michel or to Cam Akers or one of your backs? You have Darrell Henderson, who was healthy for this game. Why not hand it to one of those guys instead of doing that? But again, when you make the play, nobody questions it. So that was a huge play by Cooper Kupp. And this drive was the game-winning drive, and Cooper Kupp took over on this drive. He had been kind of quiet up to this point. Matthew Stafford had kind of struggled. He'd thrown 2 interceptions, but on this drive, he had that huge rush. He had 4 receptions, I believe, on this drive, and then he capped it off with a huge touchdown. But there was some controversy, too, at the end of this drive. And it was a questionable call, and this is where the refs came into play. And it's really a bummer that we have to talk about refs, especially with the Super Bowl. You never want it to be about the refs. But Mike, why don't you explain to the people what, if you have frustrations or whatever about this, like just kind of explain where you stand and where most people stand with how the refs handled the end of this drive.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think the Bengals defense had done a great job all game, controlling the run game, not allowing the Rams to get honestly anything going in the run game. I believe, Rams only had 43 rushing yards in this game, and I can't. Let me try to pull it up real quick, Joe, because it was in the 4th quarter. So we were at roughly what, like the 15-yard line, Joe? I don't know if you remember.
I think it was something like 10, 15, something like that.
Yeah. So anyway, they were at I believe it was like the 15 or 20 yard line anyway. And Matthew Stafford throws the ball to Cooper Kupp, and it's a bit behind him. And we see a flag get thrown. And when they showed it in slow motion, they called, I believe it was defensive holding on number 55. I can't remember the name. Is it Logan Wilson?
I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this was on 3rd down as well.
Yeah, 3rd down. Big play. They show the replay, and I mean, Logan Wilson's barely even touching Cooper Kupp. And so you instantly perfect coverage. On Cooper Kupp, I mean, we had a linebacker on Cooper Kupp and had perfect coverage, which I guess the ref saw that as like, no, there's no way. But, going back to the Ramsey face mask call, if you're not going to make that call in a big game, which it could have been hard to see it happen in real time, but you cannot call a soft call like that in the Super Bowl. And then I believe the very next play, Cooper Kupp scored a touchdown, and then he got targeted in the head. So there's a flag on that one. And then there was holding on the offense. So offsetting penalties, replay the down. Another pass, I believe, thrown to Cooper Kupp. And if I'm not wrong, it was either Jesse Bates or Eli Apple in the coverage. And they called pass interference on another. I will say that one was a little bit more, you could see it, but a soft jersey tug. And they threw a flag again. And I was like, wow, to save the flags all game until the final drive within the 25-yard line. I was blown away, Joe. I literally was sitting there. I could not believe what was happening.
Yeah, we might talk about the refs a little bit more later, but yeah, it's just the lack of consistency, I think, is what frustrated people. And I do want to get into the refs a little bit later, so I won't talk about it too much now. But yeah, those were questionable calls, especially that Logan Wilson. That was perfect coverage. The guy did not. There was literally, you cannot make an argument that was defensive holding. That was a bad call. But bad calls happen, and they do. It is frustrating to see the game be officiated differently with 2 minutes left in the 4th quarter than it was at the beginning of the second half. But anyways, despite all those penalties, after all the laundry is picked up off the field, Matthew Stafford makes a great throw to Cooper Kupp for the touchdown. He a little back shoulder, perfect throw, perfect catch. So now the Rams are up 23-20, but this gives Joe Burrow a minute and 23 seconds and 2 timeouts. And to me, I was convinced Joe Burrow was going to march the Bengals down and score a touchdown. At this point, I was like, Oh, there's no way. I mean, Joe Burrow's winning this game. That's what I was telling. I don't know what your vibe was, but to me, I was telling people at Super Bowl party, it's like, oh, Joe Burrow's gonna march this thing down and win right now.
Yeah, no, Joe. I looked at the time. I saw it was like, yeah, right around a minute and a half ish. And I was like sitting there like, that's a lot of time. They had all 3 timeouts. I was like, you know, I stood up off the couch. I was like, this is where it happens. This is where he proves to everyone like he's Joe Burrow. He's the next guy. And
they started the drive off really good.
Yeah.
With
some doubts started to creep into my mind, and then right as it creeped in, Joe Burrow hit Jamar for a 17-yard catch and run where he burns Jalen Ramsey. And I was like, nope, this is happening. Worst case scenario, we're getting a field goal. We're going to overtime. But yeah, no, I was fully convinced that this game was not ending on that drive.
Yep, it was. I thought for sure. I mean, it was at least going to go to overtime, but the Bengals get to the 50-yard line. I think it was exactly at midfield, 54 seconds left, and this to me is unbelievable. It was 2nd and 1 from the 50-yard line, 2nd and 1 yard, and this is how the Bengals season ends. On 2nd and 1. They go incomplete pass. Joe Burrow incomplete pass, I believe, for looking for Jamar Chase.
Yep.
And then 3rd and 1. They go no gain, a run to Samaje Perine. For some reason, Joe Mixon's not on the field. They hand it off to Samaje Perine. Aaron Donald makes an unbelievable play on that. I don't know if you saw Aaron Donald on that run where he grabbed Samaje Perine with one arm and literally just pulled him back. Incredible play. And then 4th and 1, game on the line. Joe Burrow drops back to throw, shotgun. Aaron Donald completely just makes the opposing guard whiff. He gets in the face of Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow somehow throws the ball away, and Aaron Donald seals the game on 4th and 1. So a crazy, crazy way to end. Aaron Donald seals the game. The Rams win 23-20. Cooper Kupp wins Super Bowl MVP. He had 92 yards receiving, I believe, and 2 touchdowns. My first question I want to ask, do you think that Cooper Kupp is the rightful Super Bowl MVP, or do you think that Aaron Donald or maybe somebody else should have won MVP?
I honestly, when I saw them, or when they announced Cooper Kupp was MVP, I mean, I was beyond ecstatic. I mean, the man balled out the entire NFL season, Joe, playoffs and all, gets into the game, didn't have a big game up until the final drive, and what did Matthew Stafford do? Finds Cooper Kupp, and then Cooper Kupp for the touchdown. He was there the entire final drive. In my eyes, I feel like when the game came down to the Rams needed a drive, who'd they go to? Cooper Kupp. Aaron Donald played a great game there in the second half where he basically shut down everything the Bengals tried to do. So I will say Aaron Donald was probably second in the voting there, but I 100% agree with who got the MVP. I mean, the man had such a great season. He came up in the biggest game when they needed him to. So I agree. What were your thoughts on him winning the MVP, Joe?
Yeah, I was surprised. I thought it was going to be Aaron Donald. I was very happy that it wasn't Aaron Donald because I was going to put $100 on Aaron Donald to win Super Bowl MVP, but the betting app that I was using didn't let me right before the game for some reason. So if he would have won and I would have been able to make $1,000 off that bet and I didn't get it, I would have been pretty ticked off. So I was happy that Cooper Kupp won Super Bowl MVP, but no, he definitely deserved it. But I want to get into some takeaways about the game. And you were just talking about how Cooper Kupp, he stepped up when he was needed. And to me, that's my biggest takeaway, or one of my biggest takeaways from this game, is that the Los Angeles Rams, their stars stepped up when they were needed most. And that to me, if I had to say one thing to one takeaway, I had to tell somebody who didn't watch this game one takeaway, I would say the Los Angeles Stars, the guys that they brought in, the guys that they pay the big money, other than Jalen Ramsey, stepped up huge in this game because Matthew Stafford, he struggled at times during this game, started off really hot, but when he was needed to make a play, 79-yard touchdown drive in the fourth quarter, his I think 42nd game-winning drive of his career. He's got the most since he came to the NFL. Huge drive. They gave up so much to get Matthew Stafford. Cooper Kupp, they just signed him to a contract extension, I believe. 4 catches on that pivotal drive, catches the game-winning touchdown. Aaron Donald stuffs Samaje Perine on 3rd down and then ends the game on 4th down. And to me, this just shows this is exactly what the Rams paid for, this offseason. They were built to win this Super Bowl, and when they needed their stars to step up, their stars stepped up.
Yeah, no, Joe, I agree 100%. I feel like all season, I was talking about it, we were talking about it, everyone else I knew was talking about it. All the the pieces they brought in with Odell, with Matthew Stafford, and of course there was a few more. Robert Woods, of course, went down, so Jefferson needed to step up. And then you had Aaron Donald, your Von Miller. They didn't play well throughout the entire season as they came together. Like I feel like one game it was Kupp, the next game it was Donald, then it was Von Miller, but it was like they could never get clicking on all cylinders. And I think it took to the Super Bowl for all of them to step up, play hard when they needed to, and that's essentially what won the Rams the game in my eyes. Like all of them coming together. I know Odell only played, I think it was a quarter and a half before he got hurt, and which really bummed me out. But it took the whole team to finally be like, we're a team. We're not just one player. And down the stretch in that game, they stepped up when they needed to. Every single one of their stars came out and proved why they went and got all those stars. Joe, because you talked about it. If they don't win that game, the Rams were absolutely screwed with basically no draft picks for the next 4 years, it seems like. Yeah. They have all these big names they got to pay, and yet they lost the Super Bowl. So, them winning the Super Bowl was massive in my eyes.
Yeah, I do think it's interesting. And I remember we were talking about it at the beginning of the playoffs on this. I believe it was on this podcast, and I remember saying something along the lines of like, this Rams team, they haven't been consistently the best team in the NFL, but if they can get hot, if Matthew Stafford can just cut down the mistakes, if they can get going, if they can get that chemistry going, they can make a run, they can win the Super Bowl. That's exactly what happened. And I think it'll be interesting to see, do you think that teams are going to look at this Rams team and say, okay, this team just went all in, and kind of maybe even look at the Buccaneers team from last year, another team that didn't really worry too much about young players. They went and got proven veteran players. I know the Bucs are a little different. They kind of had some homegrown talent, but also a team that, veteran players. They went all in on this one season. Do you think that this is going to change how teams build their rosters? Like, are teams going to value, trading those first-round picks, trading those early picks for proven guys rather than, scratching these lottery tickets, getting these young prospects in the draft? Like, do you think that teams are going to try to replicate this offseason?
Joe, I think honestly it will happen, but I don't think it'll happen for the good. And this is probably going to be a bit of a controversial take, but I know last year, Buccaneers, a lot of stars came in. They won the Super Bowl. This year, Rams picked up a lot of key players, won the Super Bowl. But at the same time, you look at the Bengals, a young team. All they needed was, I think, 1 or 2 offensive linemen to step up, and they win that game.
Yeah.
On that final drive, Joe, I don't know if you saw, but Usama basically wide open on that 4th and 1 play. Perine could have dove to catch it, and Jamar Chase. Jalen Ramsey fell on the play, and Jamar Chase was left wide open. All Joe Burrow needed was another 2 seconds max, and we have a totally different conversation. Of course, that didn't happen, so the Rams win and everything. But I don't know, Joe. The Bengals are a young team who did not have to give up everything to win a Super Bowl. I know they lost the Super Bowl, but I think they played well enough to win the Super Bowl. And, if you look back at some of the Patriots teams, they never built super teams. They always had a lot of these players that were nobodies until, they were, getting hot going into the playoffs, and everyone started talking about them. And, they won plenty of Super Bowls. You look at the Eagles. I don't believe the Eagles had a bunch of superstars on their team. They had Nick Foles and Alshon Jeffrey. And, they won a Super Bowl. So I don't think you need to build a super team necessarily to win a Super Bowl. I think that's the way the NFL is going to go. I know a lot of Kyler Murray drama is going on. I wouldn't doubt if either they bring in a lot of big names again, or he somehow wiggles out of a contract and leaves and goes and joins and stacks up a team for himself. Again, I don't think that's the way to go. I don't think that's how you're gonna stay successful for years to come. You know, you might win one ring and then have a couple losing seasons again. So I don't know, Joe. I think that it's gonna happen, but I don't think it's for the good.
Yeah, that's fair. Like I think there's going to be a lot of teams. I do think that this free agency period I think will be crazy because the NFL is such a copycat league, and it seems like whatever team wins the Super Bowl, everybody's like, "Oh shoot, we got to do that." Like a couple years ago, you're talking about the Eagles team. When the Eagles won, they're like, "Oh, we got to get a bunch of edge rushers," because the Eagles had a bunch of really good edge rushers. And then he's like, "Oh, we don't need a quarterback. We don't need a quarterback." And then Patrick Mahomes won the Super Bowl, and they're like, "Oh no, we need an elite quarterback. We need an elite quarterback." And it's like, people are constantly switching up like what they need to do to win Super Bowls based on what the most recent Super Bowl champion did. So I think we'll absolutely see teams go all in, and I'm for it. Honestly, if you have a chance to go all in, these draft picks, they're lottery tickets. And if you can, I think people overvalue first round picks. They overvalue first round picks because only half of them are actually going to be good. And if you can trade those first round picks for a proven player, like the Rams did with Jalen Ramsey, like they did with Matthew Stafford, pick up a guy like Odell Beckham off the scrap heap. If you can do things like that, I value that. I think having those proven players is big, and obviously the quarterback position is so important too. If you can just find that quarterback to come in and really throw it all together, I think that's huge, and I think we'll absolutely see teams try to replicate this. But anyways, I've talked a lot. What's one of your big takeaways from this Super Bowl as a whole?
I would have to say one of my biggest takeaways is the Bengals. I think they need to be happy for how far they came this year. We've talked about it in the past. They were not supposed to be there. They were playing with house money. I think they absolutely played their heart out, and like I said, they played well enough to win. But I think a key takeaway from this game, Joe, they have to look at that O-line. Whether that means gut it and completely redraft or pick up some big names. I do not think you can allow Joe Burrow to get sacked. I think it was 70 times this season. He is not going to be there very long. He's not going to be an NFL player very long. We're looking at a next Andrew Luck if you do not fix that O-line. So that's one big takeaway I have. Another massive takeaway I have is Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, I believe, and I know there was a controversial call on one of the touchdown grabs, but I believe those two exposed Jalen Ramsey in this game, and I hope that other NFL receivers watch film on this game or watch the game and take some notes on how to do it, because I know like DK Metcalf and, Devonta Adams had previously not exposed him, but he played well against Jalen Ramsey. But take notes on what these guys did, and it wasn't just one play. Like Jamar Chase had a multiple 4 or 5 yard catches that turned into 10, 15 yards. Like he was getting by him, and it didn't seem like he was having to work that hard. I know his stat line wasn't amazing. I believe he had 89 receiving yards on what was it? 8 targets, 5 catches, 89 yards. So nothing massive, but I mean. And then if you look at T. Higgins, he had 7 targets, 4 catches, 100 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So, I mean, I think they put together quite the sheet up against Jalen Ramsey. So I hope teams look at this. I hope players look at this and find ways to expose them. I told my buddy all day he was a burnt piece of toast, and he kept telling me Ramsey doesn't get beat. But time and time again, he was proven to be beat. And like I said, Joe, we are one offensive lineman giving Burrow 2 seconds longer from watching him get beat on another play per potentially the game-winning touchdown on that final 4th and 1 play, Joe.
Yeah, that's true. I can't imagine what we would be talking about. Well, I can imagine we would talk about Jalen Ramsey getting burnt 3 times, probably even more times in this game if that play goes through. If Joe Burrow has a little bit of more protection, Jalen Ramsey, he struggled in this game. This was not his best showing, for sure. But again, that comes back to the O-line. Like if the O-line had just held for the Bengals just a second longer, Joe Burrow finds a wide open Jamar Chase. Jalen Ramsey's on the floor again. And we're talking about Jalen Ramsey losing the Super Bowl for the Rams, but for sure that was one of my biggest takeaways was the Bengals. I mean, the fact that they were able to get this far, the fact that they were able to keep it this close, despite Joe Burrow being sacked 7 times in this game. It's I would think it was like the third or the fourth, I think, time a quarterback's been sacked 7 times in the Super Bowl.
Six of those came in the second half, Joe.
Yeah, 6 in the second half too. That was another thing. Yeah, 100%. It looked like they were doing really well, but then they got tired or something in the second half, or Aaron Donald and Leonard Floyd and all the guys, they turned it on. So 6 of the sacks in the second half. Joe Burrow was pressured on 42.5% of his dropbacks. So nearly half of his dropbacks he was pressured. And in the second half, I think all those half were literally in the second half because he was pressured constantly in the second half. And I know people want to say, "Oh, this is proof that they should have taken Penei Sewell over Jamar Chase." But let's be real, if Jamar Chase is not on this team, they're not in the Super Bowl. Like Jamar Chase, that was not a mistake. I do think that they should have done more to address, but they made it to the Super Bowl, and they do need to address that offensive line because I talked about last week. I was like, they cannot keep getting away with this. They cannot keep winning with having their quarterback get sacked 9 times against the Titans, 7 times now against the Rams. Like, they cannot get away with this for much longer, and that magic ran out. You got to go protect your quarterback.
Joe, I have one question for you, and it's kind of funny, but like we were talking about seeing teams win and then other teams jumping on that kind of bandwagon and doing exactly what that team did. If the Bengals win this game, do you think other teams look at it and go, let's sell out for all these big key players and just get the worst offensive lineman we can find because the Bengals were able to win a Super Bowl behind a non-existent offensive lineman, set of linemen? So do you think NFL teams would have been like, we don't need an offensive lineman to win a Super Bowl?
Dude, that sounds insane. It sounds hilarious to say. I guarantee you, if the Bengals had won the Super Bowl, that would be something that is talked about on all the podcasts, probably this podcast, all of the shows. They're talking about if you have a really good quarterback and good receivers, you don't need an offensive line. You just get the ball out quick. I guarantee you that would be the talking point because I think so much weight goes into what the most recent Super Bowl champion does. I honestly do.
Yeah, no, I can see that 100%. And, the fact that they were still able to manage, I believe, like 73 or 74 rushing yards, it blows my mind. I mean, that probably all came in the first half when they only allowed 1 sack, which is beyond me that they were able to only allow 1 sack in the first half. And I guess that's one of the big talking points, and give up 6 in the second half. Is like, man, they played 2 good quarters of football only to completely fall apart in the second half. I will say one other big takeaway that I've seen in a previous Super Bowl. I don't always want to be a homer and just talk about the Patriots, Joe, but when the Patriots played the Falcons and the Falcons were up big and chose not to run the ball at all, and it played a huge role in the fact that the Patriots were able to gain ground and make the comeback they did. I look at this game and I see the Bengals being up at one point either 13-20 or even 20-16, whatever it was. And it seemed like they were not going to run the ball. They were lined up in the shotgun formation almost on every play. And it makes me wonder if they run the ball, because they had success with Joe Mixon running the ball. If they run the ball and take out some time and get some first downs, like, kind of control the pace of the game, I think their chances of winning go a lot, like they almost skyrocket, because if you get out to a lead and then dominate with the run game, the game is essentially going to end. Yep. So I wonder what goes on through coaches' heads in game management situations and why they don't run the ball. I would love to know that.
Yeah, I do agree with what you're saying. Like, it seems like they were having success, and you're thinking, oh, if you didn't watch the game, you're thinking, oh, they didn't run the ball because Aaron Donald and Leonard Floyd and Von Miller, but Joe Mixon was breaking off some nice runs. Even in the second half, when they occasionally did run, Joe Mixon did have some good runs, and you got to wonder, like, both these teams really could not develop a good run game. Both of them, or the Bengals didn't really try, and the Rams really did try. They were running the ball quite a bit, but they couldn't get anything going on the ground. So both teams not really getting anything going on the ground, and I think that can absolutely be a difference maker, especially in the Super Bowl. Super Bowl is usually lower scoring. We see offensive struggles at points. I think having that strong run game is so important, 100%. Another takeaway I want to talk about, we got to talk about it a little bit, because I talked about it before. We got to talk about the refs a little bit. I don't want to talk about it too much because who wants to talk about the refs? But my takeaway is that the officials, they had to make it about themselves somehow. They just had to make it about themselves. And I think the frustrating part for most people about the officials is that they called basically two different games. They called one game for the first three quarters where they were letting them play. I think for almost the entire first half, the only penalty was a very stupid, unsportsmanlike conduct that I might get into later when we do our winners and losers. But that was like the only penalty. And then when you get to the fourth quarter, and specifically on one specific drive, the Rams get all the flags. I mean, they're throwing flags left, right, and center, and it's just like, where's the consistency? We understand they're humans. We understand they make mistakes, but I think it's a lack of consistency that really, really sucked in this game. Like, it's just, they called two different games. I would like to know your thoughts just overall. Do you think that this game was won by the refs? Do you think that the refs kind of tainted this game, or like, what are your thoughts on the officiating in the Super Bowl?
As a Bengals fan, I can see how they're gonna say and I'm not saying I am a Bengals fan, but just like as a Bengals fan would see it, they will say the refs stole the game from them. As a Rams fan, they'll be like, look, they just got even for what happened earlier in the game. As a neutral fan in this game, I do not believe the refs stole the game, because time and time again, we can talk about, okay, the refs did this, but at the end of the day, the Rams hadn't scored yet. You had 40, 50 yards prior to stop them. The Bengals defense, you let them score. Okay, that's fine. Now you still have a minute and a half to score a touchdown of your own, which you get a big gain on first down. Another big gain on your next first down. You need 1 yard. You have second, third, and fourth down, 3 downs to get 1 yard, and you do not do it. So the refs did not lose the Bengals this game. They did help. I think it kind of helped with momentum, helped the Rams score a touchdown. But the Rams weren't in the end zone. I mean, you can still stop them. So I didn't like the way they did call, like you said, for the first 55 minutes of the game, it was like between 2 and 4 penalties, and they were all very light penalties. So I was 100%. I was absolutely excited, Joe. Like, I was fixing to text you like this is one of the best games I've ever seen, because we always talk about the refs, and there was like no refs in this game. And then in the final 4 minutes, there was 3 or 4 penalties, and I was like, yep, here we go again. The refs do what they do best. So it did suck to see that all the way at the end of the game. Like, if you're not going to call anything early, don't call anything late, and vice versa. But at the end of the day, I still believe the better team won. And as a Bengals fan, like I said, keep your head up. You have a lot of potential on your team. You are 1 or 2 offensive linemen from literally being Super Bowl contenders again next year. So there's nothing to be ashamed of. And as a Rams fan, I mean, again, you don't have to listen to the people that say the refs won you the game, because I feel like the Rams did everything they needed too late to win that game, Joe.
Yeah, I'm again, I don't agree with a lot of the things that happened in this game officiating-wise, but I'm very tired of going on Twitter and stuff and seeing people saying, oh, there's an asterisk beside this Super Bowl, or like they didn't deserve the Super Bowl, the Rams handed them the Super Bowl. No. And I see a lot of screenshots going off that's like, oh, they also missed the Rams going offsides or false start here and this and that. And I was like, you can do this with every single game. If I would go and I would take screenshots of everything that looked like a penalty, I'm sure I could find 15 or 20 examples of where the Bengals look like they got penalties. Like, don't play this game where you just take screenshots of things that look like penalties.
Exactly, Joe. And I don't mean to cut you off, but I would like to see every Bengals fan reaction to the Higgins face mask grab. I can guarantee you about 95% of them Bengals fans were saying, you know what? They're letting them play. This is football. They're letting them play. So if you're going to say that be prepared. At the end of the game, when something like this happens, you cannot be mad because they didn't call that massive call. Like, they gave you one right there. So you can't really, like, be upset when they take one back. So, I mean, if the Bengal fans had said that should have been a flag, I mean, I'm sorry for you. I feel bad for you because, I mean, you probably, actual football because, like I said earlier, like, that was a flag. But whatever. But yeah, no, I don't agree with people blasting the NFL saying it's rigged or saying that the refs won the game because at the end of the day, Bengals could have stopped the Rams and they also had a lot of time to go down and score.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just I will admit, like if that Logan Wilson holding call was a makeup call, that's a tough spot for a makeup call.
It's a bad one.
Really tough spot for a makeup call. I hope that was not the case. But, yeah, there was still opportunities for the Bengals to win. They had 2 timeouts. They had a minute and a half left in the game. Like, this was not, with 5 seconds left, they give the Rams, like, an extra 3 plays or something. Like, there was opportunities to still win the game. And, yeah, I do still think, like you said, the better team won. I think the Rams were the better team. They were built to win this game. But that brings me to one of my final questions. Unless you have any more takeaways you want to bring up, I have one question. Who do you think is more likely to be back in this situation? Who do you think has a chance to be back in the Super Bowl next year better, the Rams or the Bengals?
I know a lot of people probably will disagree with this, but I'm going to take the Bengals. And it's because one of my reasons why I don't believe super teams are the way to go. The Bengals have such a young team, coaches included, Joe. They got Burrow, of course, Chase. I believe Joe Mixon is a great running back. Their defense, if they can get Bates back, I think their defense is going to be just fine. Like I said, they're 1 or 2 offensive linemen from being just fine and being a Super Bowl contender again versus the Rams, who have had Aaron Donald, Sean McVay, Matthew Stafford, I'm not sure of, but there have been reports. Potentially, Von Miller maybe because, he's also not getting up there in age, but, his body's not as young as it once was. Odell Beckham going through his 2nd and or 3rd ACL injury. There's 4 to 5 people on that Rams organization that have came out and said there's a potential they might be retiring after this game. And if that happens, Joe, the Rams will be one of the worst teams next year. I'm not saying that they can't be good, but if a lot of their key guys go out and retire on top, honestly, like the Bengals, like the shift is just massive. The Bengals will have a better chance of being back. Now, if all the pieces stay there, of course, then the Rams can equally come back and then we could have a rematch even. But I'm going to go with the Bengals, Joe. What about you?
I understand that, and it is crazy that it seems like the entire Rams team is retiring now or something. Like Aaron Donald, that news came out of nowhere. I know he hasn't officially retired, and I really, really hope he does not retire because he is still just dominating the game at such a high level. But yeah, the Rams with all that question for sure, that makes it tough. And if all those guys are back next year, I think there's a good chance that they're in this exact same spot. Competing for Super Bowls with the Bengals. I know a lot of people are saying, "Oh, they will be back. They will be back. They will be back." And to me, I just keep wondering, did they miss a huge opportunity here? And obviously they did. They didn't win the Super Bowl. But if you look to me, I think it's easier to just say, "Oh, they will be back next year. They'll be back at some point." However, the AFC is stacked with talent. I mean, you got Josh Allen, you got Patrick Mahomes, you got, all these fantastic quarterbacks, these future superstars and current superstars, and you have these stacked teams. The AFC is so good that this was like really the chance for the Bengals to go and win this Super Bowl. And I wonder, I think it's going to be really hard to make it back through the AFC. And, a lot of people said Dan Marino when he made the Super Bowl in his 2nd season, and they said, oh, he lost, but he'll be back. And he never made it back to the Super Bowl. So I do fear that, what if Joe Burrow's in the same situation? What if the Bengals are in the same situation and they can't find their way back? I do wonder if they potentially missed a huge opportunity here to steal the Super Bowl.
No, Joe, those are great points, like you said, about the AFC being really tough. And I agree with the Josh Allens, the Patrick Mahomes. I do believe there's a lot of talent on that AFC side. And so for them to get back is going to be tough. This is the part of the NFL. Like, you look at the Rams, of course, they're celebrating. So they're going to be riding a high all the way, into next season. And, it might feel like it's a lot easier to, to get back because, they know what winning feels like. And, for the Bengals, they lost. And to get that motivation to come back, to keep on going, like, the grind is going to feel extra. It's going to feel a lot more difficult for them because there was no prize at the end. There was no, like, payoff. We did it. So for them to get back, I feel like it's going to be more difficult. There might be a fire burning inside of them. So they might have a lot more motivation to go back. But it's no easy task. And I feel like, seeing the Chiefs go to 4 straight AFC championships, the Pats going to all their 8 championships and Super Bowls, like, it just puts into perspective, like, how hard that is to do in the NFL.
Absolutely.
And it just makes them that much more impressive.
Mm-hmm.
So, but Joe, honestly, I will say, I think it's just good for football. I think next season is going to be so fun. I think this off season in regards is going to be very, what's the word? Like, there's going to be a lot of hype around this off season with all the free agents out there. And then leading into the season, I think next season is going to be epic with all the big things that happened this year already, all the young stars balling out. Like, I think next season is going to be nuts. We're kind of getting past that older generation of players, and here come all the new players, the young guns. And I think the NFL is fixing to be really fun for the next few years, Joe.
Absolutely. I think it's going to be a really, really exciting off-season and draft process, and I think it could have a potential like to be just as crazy as this last season was. Just the building process, how teams are going to get built. I'm very, very intrigued to see it. And absolutely, so many young quarterbacks, especially in the AFC, that are up and coming, and there's going to be so many great teams. And it just seems like there's so many teams that have the ability to win the Super Bowl. But this was a fantastic Super Bowl. Could have asked for much better. I mean, it came down to the wire. We're lucky. We're blessed to have a Super Bowl that came down to the wire. No blowout like we had last year. So that was really exciting. But before we wrap up the Super Bowl, before we wrap up this season, why don't we do one final winners and losers from Super Bowl 56? Mike, why don't you give me one winner or loser, and then I'll give you one winner or loser. We'll just go back and forth here a little bit. So why don't you give me a winner, a loser, whatever you want to start with.
Joe, I'm going to pick a winner, and my winner in the Super Bowl is going to be Cooper Kupp.
All right.
I feel like all season he had, a big year, and I feel like if you listen to him talk, he is just, football is his brain. And I feel like he is one of the most talented wide receivers we've ever seen. And I'm excited to keep watching him next year, hopefully. But yeah, no, he is definitely one of my winners for putting up 2 touchdowns in the Super Bowl, winning MVP. And I cannot wait to watch, what he's got in store for the future, Joe. What about you? Who do you got?
Absolutely. Cooper Kupp is definitely a big-time winner, Super Bowl MVP. I don't know if you saw him talking about the vision or the dream that he had
I did.
From God that he was going to win Super Bowl MVP and they were going to win the Super Bowl. That was really cool. I thought that was a cool, inspiring thing. But yeah, definitely Cooper Kupp. I'll give you a winner too, and I'll say the guy who's thrown the passes, Matthew Stafford. Obviously, big-time winner. Didn't win Super Bowl MVP, but I thought he started off really good, and he just deserves it, man. 12 years in Detroit. Could not get anything going there, could not develop into a good team. He had a 74-90-1 record in Detroit, 0-3 in the playoffs. He gets to Los Angeles, 12-5 record. They're one of the best teams in the NFL. He struggles at times in the regular season, really turns it on. He had an underrated postseason, really, really good postseason. 4-0 in his first year in the playoffs with the Rams. And I don't know if you saw that no-look throw to Cooper Kupp on that final drive. What a
I did,
throw.
Joe.
I mean, Matthew Stafford makes a couple throws like this every game. So he, to me, is definitely one of my biggest winners from this, just to have him finally win a Super Bowl, finally play meaningful games.
Yeah, no. I was very hyped to see, Matthew Stafford finally get one. I don't think anyone deserves a Super Bowl win more than that man. I mean, the amount of pain and everything he went through in Detroit. And, to come to LA in his first season, ball out, and to win a Super Bowl, just credit to Matthew Stafford for sticking it, through all the tough times in Detroit and even tough times in LA. What didn't come easy for him. But, good for Stafford and Kupp to, finally get one. And I guess we move on to the losers. Joe, I'm having a tough one here. I'm almost tempted to not say a loser because the game was so good. I think both teams played so well. I think the refs did a great job up until the final 2 minutes, and I don't want to just throw the refs in there because I feel like they did I think they did a really good job. Halftime show was a banger in my eyes.
Yeah.
I really liked the halftime
Didn't even
show.
talk about that.
So honestly, Joe,
You can throw another
I
winner
cannot-
out there if you want.
man, that's even tough, Joe. It's just all in all, I think this year was just. You know what, Joe? I'm going to say this. I'm going to throw no losers in the Super Bowl, even though the Bengals did lose, but no losers here. I'm going to say, my next winner, my final winner for the season, just the NFL in whole. I think this season was great. I think the playoffs were amazing. Other than Wild Card Weekend, every single game seemed to be close, tight, and just so fun to watch. And then the Super Bowl went out with probably one of the best halftime performances I've ever seen. One of the better games I've ever watched. I just think this year as a whole was a win, Joe.
That's awesome. Yeah, I agree. This was definitely one of the most fun football seasons I've ever recalled. And just the fact that the Cincinnati Bengals were playing in the Super Bowl, just so bizarre, so weird, so crazy. And that's been the whole season. I mean, every week for 18 weeks I came on here and said, this week was the craziest week in the whole world. And I said it every single week because every single week it felt true. And so many good games, so many fun moments. And I like that you're just trying to stay positive, no losers. I'll quickly throw just a little one in there, just a little bit of negativity. Losers, I'm going to say defensive backs in this game because we had Jalen Ramsey. He was burnt toast in this game. Eli Apple, that guy was getting clowned by everybody on social media because he talked a bunch of crap to Mecole Hardman and Tyreek Hill and all that. He was getting clowned. And also Vernon Hargreaves, who was inactive in this game, got an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty for running onto the field in street clothes. What are you doing, buddy? What are you doing? You just cost your team yards and you're not even playing in the game. So I'll just throw that out there. Defensive backs are my loser, but yeah, let's try to stay positive. It is the end of the season. But that's pretty much, that's going to wrap us up for the 2021-2022 NFL season. What is there left to say? It was a crazy fun year. I really appreciate you guys sticking up, sticking around with us, listening to us every week, sharing us with your friends on social media or whatever, subscribing. We really appreciate that, Mike. I appreciate having you on every week and JT, doing all the work and being on and just talking banter at the beginning of the episode. It's really fun and really rewarding. And this season in the NFL has been really rewarding. And we're going to be back at some point. We're going to take a little bit of a break here, just kind of go on vacation, not literally go on vacation because, we don't have that kind of money. We still got to go do our day jobs. But we're going to take a little break from the podcast just to kind of take a breath, debrief. We do work really hard. We do a lot of prep for this podcast. It's not just coming up here and just talking into a mic. There's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes. We're going to try to take a little break, take a little breather, get the podcast better. Like, just think about how we can improve the podcast, potentially maybe making, content for YouTube and stuff like that, maybe more content on social media. So keep an eye on the Instagram and the Twitter for that. I might be doing some free agency stuff. And me and Mike might be back within the next couple weeks, maybe having some free agency talk. Free agency's in a month. Really excited for that. Really excited for the offseason. I love the offseason. It's one of my favorite parts of the NFL season. So I'm really looking forward to that, Mike. I don't know what else. If you have anything else you want to say to our loyal listeners and just to everybody listening to the Average Joe Football Show.
Joe, I just want to give a quick shout out to all the listeners and hopefully future viewers. I hope that in this off season and this break we take, we can maybe get some stuff figured out. And if it's not YouTube right away, maybe get some more social media going, maybe some more content on there, just to kind of branch out a little. So all you listeners out there, just hang on tight, and I promise you, we're going to be bringing you some fire content here shortly. But I just want to thank Joe. I want to thank JT. I want to thank all the fans. I want to thank my wife. I want to thank just everyone. I want to thank the NFL for giving us such a good season. I want to, and like I was saying, Joe, I just want to thank you for allowing me to come on the show. It's been so fun this entire year.
My pleasure,
it's been so easy. It's been great. And I mean, as long as y'all have me, I'm ready to sign for next year. I'm ready to sign to do this again for a full season because man, it was epic. And it was a lot of fun. And I hope you viewers had a lot of fun hearing me and Joe just go back and forth. And, like I said, we want to bring a whole lot more content to y'all. So I hope you guys will enjoy that as well. But just thank you guys. Thank everyone. Thank the NFL. Just thank you, Mac Jones, of course. And I am beyond hyped for a month or however long the break is. I'm hyped to be back. And I just can't wait to bring out more content.
Absolutely. Couldn't have said it better myself. Thank you guys for listening every week. We really do appreciate it. We don't have a huge, listenership. Like, we're not, the Joe Rogan Experience. But those of you that do listen week in and week out, like, you have no idea how much we really appreciate it. And I feel like it's been too long since I've thanked you guys for listening. I used to do it almost every episode, but I really do appreciate you guys listening. And sharing and all that, and people that are buying sweaters with the Average Joe Football Show on it, like, you have no idea, like, that means a lot to me, and I really do appreciate it because we put a lot of work in, we take a lot of pride, and I'm really, really excited for the future of the show. I really am. I think there's some big things happening for sure. I think we're only going better places. And Mike, like, you say, you're thanking me for allowing you on the podcast, but I got to thank you for coming on and making it that much more fun. Honestly, having another guy to talk football about, it's changed the dynamic 100% of the podcast, and I've really, really enjoyed you having on. And I know it's free agency, so we're gonna have to work really hard to sign you to a new big contract, but we're gonna do our best to get you on next season as well. And Mike,
just sign me in Bitcoin, Joe.
Okay, yeah, we'll try to work that out. We'll try to get the blockchain going for you. No, we're really excited. And I know Mike's bringing a lot of really good ideas to the podcast, and that really excites me. So guys, just stay tuned. This sounds like a New Year's podcast or something, like we're just celebrating, but it's the end of the NFL season. It's time to reflect on what was an awesome season, an awesome second season of the podcast, and I'm excited to go back and just see how much the podcast has grown. We're coming up on 100 episodes, so it's incredible. It's really cool. And again, thank you guys so much for listening. Make sure if you do listen every week, you give us a 5-star rating. That you have no idea how much that means to us. If we get a 5-star rating, leave us a nice review. Heck, if you even just want to put a knock-knock joke in the review, whatever, as long as it's a 5-star rating, that's phenomenal. Subscribe. That means a ton. Subscriptions are huge. Downloads are massive for the podcast. Give us a follow on Instagram and Twitter @_AverageJoeShow. And Mike, I don't know if you have anything else. I know I already said this, but anything else you want to say before we wrap things up? I think we're having some technical difficulties. Mike didn't hear me asking him that, but I'll just wrap up the show. And yeah, thank you guys very much for tuning in. For Mike, for JT behind the mic, doing all the hard work, and for all of you listening, we're excited for free agency, excited for the start of a new NFL season, also excited for a little bit of a break. But until then, until the next time on the podcast, we will catch you guys on the next one.